My name is Nancy. I'm 86 years old, from Clearwater to Florida. A history of a heart disease. Let me tell you what happened to me about 1 year ago. I woke up with a terrible headache. And I was very lightheaded. I never felt this way before. I called my neighbor to take me to the ER at Morton Blatant Hospital. I didn't feel like I could drive. When we arrived at the emergency room, the nurse had the worst headache of my life, and I was very lightheaded. We were told to have a seat in the waiting room. We waited for approximately 4 hours. When we were brought back to the ER, briefly saw the doctor, who was Dr. Gregory Wayne Smith, DO. Next thing I remember, the nurse was putting an IV in my arm. Soon after, the nurse gave me a medication. I questioned the nurse what she was giving me, but she already had begun injecting medication. While doing so, she replied, "Doctor's orders." Months later, I found out what she was giving me was Capsaicin. Capsaicin is a drug indicated for nausea. I was not nauseated. To this day, I don't understand. I was given Capsaicin. This medication knocked me for a loop. From that point on, I was basically incoherent. I only vaguely recall being wheeled outside and sent home. I live alone. The rest of the evening was a blur. I vaguely recall being told days later in a hospital bed that I was actually having a stroke. When I arrived in the ER and then sent home, doped up, to complete having my massive stroke. I am very lucky to be alive. I'm hanging from this sling by choice, but because I cannot move. I'm paralyzed. I can assure you, I do not speak like this. Normally, the feeding bags behind me are used to feed me. Let me tell you about my life prior to this. My children and grandchildren could not keep up with me. I was very independent. I went shopping daily and belonged to my beautiful church choir. And I also ran a business. I could up a storm daily, had friends over constantly. I was always going out running errands for friends. My life has been taken away from me because of the several bad mistakes made by Morton Hospital and their staff, and by Dr. Gregory Wayne Smith, DL. Morton Hospital is supposed to be a stroke center. How could it be that I walked into Morton Hospital, our stroke center, and be given a medication that knocked me for a loop, then sent me home to continue having a stroke with a diagnosis of sinusitis. I never imagined something of this sort could happen to anyone. My goal here is to prevent the same catastrophe happening to anyone else. I have no more life. I'm in constant pain. I can't hear or see well. I have to be lifted up to go to the bathroom. I'm having to go through all of this unnecessarily. What happened to me could have been prevented if I had been appropriately worked up, diagnosed correctly. I was later told by several doctors that I never should have been discharged. Diagnosis of sinusitis. This was a stroke center. They were supposed to prevent this. They missed the boat completely. I later found out that if I was admitted, correctly diagnosed, that I could have had interventional radiologist place a stent in my carotid artery, prevented this whole catastrophe from happening. I am an older woman, known history of heart disease. Why would Dr. Gregory Wayne Smith deal drug to knock me for a loop while I'm having a stroke? Send me home. Diagnosis of a sinusitis. Horrendous. I don't want anyone else to go through what I'm going through. The advice I feel I should give on watching this: if you think you may be having a stroke or a heart attack, if you're just so ill, you need to go to an emergency room. Please contact your attorney on your way to the emergency room so you're not discharged without receiving appropriate treatment and sent home while you're having a heart attack or a stroke. Make sure your attorney questions the doctor, because obviously we cannot count on the doctors in the emergency room.